The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to a Super Speedway.
That's a tough one for a 2-year-old.
Welcome to episode 123 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Tuesday, August 20th, 2019. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I'm joined, well, I'd say in studio, but we're sitting in James's dining room right now.
That's right. I left for a week, and everything went to hell, man. You're homeless.
Right.
You're in my house, and yeah, you got a new job, so
yeah,
we're flying by the seat of our pants.
I just was here when James got here, so...
That's right. Yeah, just slumming it on the couch.
So James Cush, my co-host, back with us this week after a week off. 2 podcasts he missed.
I did miss 2 in a row.
Yeah, 2 in a row.
Not good.
James's daughter Ellie getting the intro tonight.
Yeah, got the bump. We, saying Super Speedway, like I said, it's hard. It must be hard for a 2-year-old. She's trying to string. It's hard for me to say it apparently too.
Right.
So.
This is awkward because we're used to being on Skype, so I can't even look at you.
Here I am looking right at you. I'm trying to keep my eyes down.
Right.
Look at the screen.
So we got a race to talk about, James, and all kinds of news. A little bit I talked about last week on the podcast. We won't really delve into that stuff. We got some new stuff this week. But first of all, Bass Pro Shops NRA night race from Bristol Motor Speedway. Denny Hamlin gets probably the most unpopular win of Denny Hamlin's career.
Yeah, it's up there. He's had a couple of them, but this one's up there.
Yeah, so Denny Hamlin beats Matt DiBenedetto. What was it, 11 to go that he took the lead?
He did, yeah. 11 or 12 to go. He led the last little stretch there after DiBenedetto. What did he lead? He led the most laps, right? 93? Nobody else led that many?
That is correct.
So
Brad Keselowski led 91.
Yeah.
So Matt DiBenedetto, most laps.
Matt DiBenedetto has now led the most laps in 2 Crown Jewels this season and didn't get the win on either of them. One led the most laps at the 500 and the Daytona 500 and Saturday night. So
there you go.
That's a tough break for him. Everybody was probably rooting really hard against Denny. I know I was.
Yeah, I was too. And, Denny, I heard Denny talk after the race, and he had a good point. He said of all the drivers to win against, that was the last driver he wanted to win against. But he's trying to win a championship. Yeah. And he's in the running. He probably has the best chance of his career to win a championship this year.
Yep.
He can't let a point get away.
No.
We know how important points are in NASCAR right now. So this current format. So Denny did what he had to do. Again, unpopular, disappointing for many. But especially Matt DiBenedetto, who was in tears after the race. Yeah, pretty sure he'd have been in tears if he'd won it too.
Well, in the circumstances around DiBenedetto too, it's all of a sudden he's out of a ride.
Yep.
And Christopher Bell's taken over, and I think he's been aware of it maybe for a couple of weeks, at least since Watkins Glen. He's hinted at it.
I think at Watkins Glen he knew what was happening. It was like a last final plea.
Yeah, and this is has been his best shot that he's had. His whole career, and I in some ways I want to feel bad for him,
right?
But in other ways I'm like really pumped for him, because how many drivers of his caliber, have come up the same way, have had a shot like he's had a couple of really good shots, and this is put him on center stage in this race, and he had a heck of a performance. He has nothing to hang his head about.
No, definitely. We've got a couple examples recently of drivers. It used to be you'd go and the route was like if I don't have a top cup ride, I'm going to stay in Xfinity in a top ride for a couple of years and continue to make a name for myself, because if I go get in a field filler in cup, my career is over.
Right.
But we've seen Ross Chastain and Matt DiBenedetto now do just that. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't quite panned out for Matt DiBenedetto yet, because he is losing his ride.
Yeah.
And he's not in a top-notch ride still. He's in a ride that's getting closer to being a top-notch ride. Right. Probably a little closer next year without him in it. But
with the support that they're going to be getting too, it sounds like. So
Joe Gibbs is going to put everything behind Christopher Bell in that car next year. So, it's some interesting, takes on that maybe it is worth getting in one of those field filler cars.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of people do it and fail at it as well.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. Very easily, Matt DiBenedetto could have been like a Landon Castle.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been on that same path.
Yeah.
And Landon has, you think about that comp. Landon has never had a shot like this.
Right. No, definitely.
And, and he's been around. He was with Hendrick for a long time, and
Yep.
he's got a championship ring from Hendrick
Right.
from his days testing for Jimmy. So
yeah.
It's tough, man. It's I'm looking at the stats right now. I wanted to kind of see just how impressive this year has been.
He only had like 3 top 10 finishes in his season prior to this, didn't he?
Yeah, he had 4 top 10s, no top 5s. This season he's got 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and he has 166 career laps led. Okay. He's led 143 this season. And like I said, those 2 crown jewels that he's had a shot at. So
I remember at Chicagoland I was trying to catch him before qualifying, and he didn't come by while I was out there. But that was one of the things I'd looked up ahead of time was where he was at with top 10 finishes, because at that time he was just starting to click some
He's
off.
getting on a roll. Yeah, he's been running really well. I think we had mentioned, starting at Sonoma a few weeks back, he really started to get on a roll, and I'm looking at the stats right now. He's got at Sonoma, he's got a 4th place and then a 27th, and then he goes 8, 16, 5, 17, 6, 20, and 2. And even those lower finishes are, for him, much better than where he was, not that long ago when he was driving for Go Fast and working his way up.
I want to talk more about Matt. James, you got some stuff here in the notes. You did the work and put it in here, so go ahead and talk about that on what kind of car he was driving this weekend.
Yeah, so a lot of people thought, with the announcement of Christopher Bell coming over to the 95, that Gibbs automatically has already started to feed them better equipment.
Right.
Not the case. Though the chassis they were running on Sunday, that's a 2018 chassis. Matt's crew chief Mike Wheeler had said, and this is from Nate Ryan on NASCAR on NBC, basically that when JGR learns stuff, we get upgrades, but that's about it. They had seen that Matt had been fast all weekend, probably got a little bit of a bump there, but that's not a new chassis that they're bringing. That's not the highest tech. That's 2018 stuff. And this is not, Mike Wheeler said, this is not a JGR primary car. This is what we're working with. So you think about what Denny Hamlin's racing with versus what DiBenedetto had. And it makes that run even more impressive.
Well, Denny Hamlin passed the field like twice at Bristol.
Right.
So, there was a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah. He was 2 laps down at one point, right?
Yeah.
So, he was on a rail either way. So
I think a 2018 JGR car is still a pretty darn good car.
Oh, no doubt.
So let's not act like they're not in really good equipment still.
Yeah. And the fact that they're on a short track probably helps too. That takes a little bit of the aero curve out of it. So again, you can probably get away with running an older chassis there. So
Matt DiBenedetto has gotten a ton of praise, especially this week. It's been leading up to this, but of course Bristol, everybody's crazy about Matt DiBenedetto right now. If you listen to Sirius, they spent all day yesterday talking about Matt DiBenedetto. Mm-hmm. So my question is it deserved?
Heck yeah, it's deserved. He's putting on a heck of a show. He's run really well. And I think a lot of people feel bad for him. Yeah. He's getting a little bit of a sympathy bump, but it's I don't want to feel bad for him. But I think it's just the way that circumstances are working out as quickly as they're working out too. The same week he loses his ride, he has this great run. Which
historically we've seen that sort of thing happen. If somebody faces adversity, they get that extra oomph.
Brian Vickers, guys like that. That's what makes NASCAR great. And even back in the day, it's the stories, man. Yeah. And this is a great story. So it's deserved or not, it's a great story. So here's my question about Matt. And I'm going to poo-poo on this parade a little bit. That's okay. Is he a contender? Is he a legit contender? I heard this talked about a little bit yesterday. We're going to Darlington in 2 weeks. We're going to preview that here today. Do we expect DiBenedetto to put on a performance like this at Darlington? I don't think so. Do we expect him to do this at the Brickyard? No. How much of this is, and again, I don't want to take anything away from Matt DiBenedetto and what he's doing, but is this because he was at a great track? Is this different than Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on a restrictor plate track? It's the same story, essentially. Right. Outperform an underperforming car at a track you're really good at, but Matt needs to be able to pick up this at other tracks as well. Correct. So I guess my question is does he, a lot of people are calling for him, man, get him a top tier ride right away. Yeah.
Levine's making a mistake by kicking him out of the car. He needs to be. He should go to Stuart Haas next season and replace Clint Boyer, stuff like that. I mean, I'd love to see Matt DiBenedetto in a Stuart Haas car. I'd love to see it.
Well,
love to see what he could do.
You know what we're going to see this weekend? He's racing JGR top level Xfinity.
We will
equipment.
see that. Yes.
And would you be surprised if he won this weekend?
No, not in Xfinity.
Exactly.
Well, let's put it this way: he should.
He should.
If he is good,
and
he should win in that car this weekend.
And he's good on road courses.
Yeah.
So if he's not going to make the playoffs, that's pretty much a given at this point. This was his shot.
Yep.
But if he goes to the Roval and wins, I'm not going to be surprised about it.
On the same note, great dark horse pick for Darlington because he could. He could do it. I don't expect him to run like this.
Regan Smith did this.
Yeah.
In a similar type of situation with that 78 team before it became Furniture Row Racing that we know from 2017 winning a championship.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe Darlington's a little bit of an equalizer.
So I guess my thought is we don't know the story. This is just all speculation, but is Matt DiBenedetto somebody like a Ricky Stenhouse that is good at a track, or is he someone like, maybe this is a bad example, but is he someone like Martin Truex Jr., who was in a car that wasn't a great performing car, kind of was okay, and then gets in a car that's good, and now he's a champion? Does Matt DiBenedetto have that or not? And it's more of a rhetorical question because we don't know. There's no way to know.
It kind of goes back to what I was saying. Landon Castle, I think he's a great comp because he's a really good race car driver. Yeah. He has great statistics, great passing stats, great speed stats for his equipment he's in. He's just never had the shot.
Yep.
If we were to put him in the 48 car in its heyday, what would he have done?
Right.
It's hard to say. But I think in great equipment, these guys at this level are so good. All these guys are great drivers.
Yeah.
They're not in the Cup Series for no reason. And if you'd put Matt DiBenedetto in the 20 or the 18 or whatever, then I think he'd probably be a threat to win every week. At least a top 5 every week.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I think so. I think he's a good driver. I think we've seen glimmers of greatness from Matt DiBenedetto in the past.
Just a good wheelman.
Yeah, he is. And, we've talked about, honestly, take Corey LaJoie and stick him in Kyle Busch's car. He'd probably do
driver.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
There's
another good
not
comp.
many drivers in. I'll even go so far as to say, no, never mind. I was going to say Natalie Decker in the Truck Series, but
I'm not even going to laugh at that. I'm trying not to.
I can't go there. But anyway, most of the drivers, especially in the Cup Series, if they're running the Cup Series, even Quinn Hoff is probably a pretty decent driver. Be in that series.
No, and you think about what these guys did coming up, through the ranks. When you brought up LaJoie, that's a great one because he's got a similar career path to Matt as well. But these guys show great performance. Chase Elliott is another comp. He just landed in a better ride. He had a better last. I don't want to.
It's true though.
He got a better last name.
Yeah.
And he had a better situation.
Yeah.
And he was able to get a top tier ride. But you look at at Matt's K&N stats. I'm looking at him right here. He didn't run a full season all but one time, and he's got 3 wins and racked up a bunch of top 10s.
Yeah.
He's as good as any of these guys out there. I just don't think that, and he's not even at his best yet. He's only 27, 28, 29, somewhere in there. So I
think somebody takes a chance on him, they're going to get something good. The problem is there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a little bit of silly season stuff here in the show a little bit later, but there's no room at the end for him.
It's tough. You've got somebody who's
David Reagan's spot. But
maybe.
What are you going to do there?
Yeah. But
you're not going to do anything with that ride. Sorry. Maybe win Talladega someday.
Yeah, you're back in the same situation that you're in, if not worse.
You're taking a step back.
Yeah, it's a step backwards from Levine.
Yeah.
Honestly, maybe it wouldn't hurt DiBenedetto to go run some Xfinity races and
JR Motorsports or
run
something.
a full season down there for JRM or for KBM and win some races, show everybody what you can do. And
heck yeah. I don't know. I don't know what his situation is with Toyota and Gibbs. Obviously, he's running Gibbs stuff this week.
Right.
At Road America. So, yeah, man,
there's room down there. If you've got some sponsorship money behind you, there's room.
Oh yeah, look at some of the drivers that have made careers out of it down there.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Annett,
Justin Allgaier is a really good example. Justin Allgaier has no intention of coming back.
No, he's good. Elliott Sadler resurrected his career strictly in the Xfinity Series.
Mike Skinner said again this weekend that he constantly thinks about what numbers he could have put up if he'd just stayed in the Truck Series and not tried to go cup racing.
Could have been Ron
So that was
Horner,
the biggest mistake in his career.
Could have been Mike Skinner, Ron Hornaday. Those guys who were great in the trucks.
Yep.
Johnny Benson was another one who was really good.
Yep. It's like, here locally we've got Mike Eddy, who was, excellent ASA
great
series. A lot of people asked, why didn't Mike Eddy never try to go NASCAR? Because he's like an 8-time champion in ASA.
He was the best.
Yeah. He didn't want to go. Why go from being the best? Why go from being the king of a series to go be a small dog somewhere and lose?
Yeah.
Butch Miller did it.
Yeah.
Do you remember Butch Miller in the Cup Series?
Exactly.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
He ran in the Cup Series.
Jack Sprague is another one. I mean, he dipped his toe in, but he never, it was never anything serious. And he was a lower level guy and was a great truck series driver.
Yep.
Great short track guy.
So we go from the most loved person of the weekend at Bristol to one of the most hated drivers of the weekend at Bristol Motor Speedway. And that's Ryan Newman, our old buddy Ryan Newman, who doesn't like to let people pass.
Oh, no neck.
I said this could very well be a good do we care topic this week.
It falls in there.
So Ryan Newman raced, people are accusing Ryan Newman of racing DiBenedetto harder because DiBenedetto was the leader. And so one of the arguments, and I'm listening to Dave Moody on my way over here, James, one of the arguments everybody's saying is he raced Matt DiBenedetto harder because he knows if Matt DiBenedetto wins, he's not one out of the bubble spot. He's in the bubble spot. Yep. And Moody's like, he's not doing that. He races everybody harder, blah, blah, blah. Who cares?
It doesn't matter. He's racing.
It doesn't matter. If he is racing DiBenedetto harder because of that playoff spot, good.
It doesn't
That's
matter.
the point to the system.
Yeah. I think he raced him harder because he knew the situation.
Yeah, I think so too. I guarantee somebody was on the radio telling him, "Don't let this guy win."
Yeah, and he's legendary. He's a legendary tough guy to pass.
Yeah, and he didn't race DiBenedetto dirty. I know they made contact. It did bend. Okay, I can't keep saying DiBenedetto.
Yeah, Matt. You can just say Matt.
Matty D. But yes, a damaged offender. That did not cost
him the race.
Matt the race. He still was not going to beat Hamlin.
Hamlin was coming regardless. Yeah.
And it wasn't anything dirty that Newman did. He just raced him hard. And that's what he's supposed to do. That's what he gets paid for.
Exactly what he's supposed to do. He kept his playoff hopes alive. In fact, he improved his playoff position quite a bit.
Little help from Clint Boyer, too.
Yeah, Clint Boyer helped. And Jimmy Johnson. We'll talk about that here shortly. But that's the system, man. That's that's one part of why I like stage racing is because every stage matters. Two, the playoff system at its best right now.
Right.
I mean, that's the example. I mean, you want to see these guys give it their all.
Yep.
And I don't care. Listen, throw etiquette out the door. Playoff spots are up for grabs. If Ryan Newman was 5th in points, okay, let Matt go.
Yep.
But he's scratching and clawing, and he
was,
deserves to be in the playoffs the way he's run.
I heard people say, well, why don't you be classy like Kurt Busch and pull over? Kurt's got to win.
He's already locked in.
He's in the playoffs.
It's a different situation.
Yep, completely different.
You got to run. These teams invest so much in these guys, and that 6th team making the playoffs is an underrated great story if he can pull this thing off.
It's not only that.
He's raced his way in.
Well, and it also means money for the charter. It means money for the team. I mean, there's even more at stake now.
He's probably got contract bonuses.
Yeah, there's more at stake now than there used to be. It always used to be a big deal to make the playoffs, but now making the playoffs this year helps you 2 years from now still.
Yeah, it's a big deal for him. I mean, they're outperforming the better team, quote unquote, better team in that stable. And Ryan Newman has not lucked his way into a 15th place standing right now. No. That is purely racing off of his talent and what that team's given him.
The fact that
that's probably his best driving job he's done in many years.
The fact that Jack Roush recognized that you can put Newman in a car
and get there
and get the performance. He's not putting Newman in a car to win.
No.
He's putting Newman in to do exactly what he's doing and race hard.
Scratch and claw.
Yep, scratch and claw, get in the playoffs,
be a grunt.
Get those bonuses. Yep,
he's a grunt, and Ricky Stenhouse is more of the flashy go for wins guy.
Yep.
But Ryan Newman's doing the grunt work, man, and doing a dang fine job of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I have no issues with how Newman raced that. I think I'd race that. Man, if that dude was driving for me, I'd be pumped.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be back on my team next year because of race performances like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's talk about some winners and losers on the day. Let's start with Kyle Busch because Kyle fits into both categories, I think, on this weekend.
He always does.
So he starts out first out for qualifying, qualifies terrible, goes a lap down early in the race, manages to finally get in the lucky dog position, work his way back up, and claw to a 4th place finish on the day. Excellent performance. Of course, he wasn't happy with it.
No, never is.
At Bristol, if you're Kyle Busch, you expect to win. I mean, period.
Absolutely.
It's like Dale Earnhardt at Talladega. You pretty much, you're going to win the race.
Yep.
And so, but good performance out of him. Chase Elliott with a good run. Kyle Larson ran
with a great
really well.
run. Won a stage. Kurt Busch won a stage too.
I'm looking at these results. Clint Boyer finished 7th.
Yeah, and he had what seemed to be a pretty rough day.
He's
finished on the lead lap.
He single-handedly killed his playoff chances by spinning as he's trying to get one playoff point and then giving Daniel Suarez a bunch.
Clint Boyer, man, he's. I mean, I hate
if
to
there's
keep
a driver
he's such a knucklehead.
There's no driver out there that beats himself more than Clint Boyer.
Yeah, well, Ricky Stenhouse is up there.
Yeah, that's true.
That's probably
true.
Those are probably the two. But yeah, no, it's weird. Yeah, I don't know how he salvaged it, but he did.
Kevin Harvick had a strong car and led 28 laps, only to he had a transmission error.
Transmission, yeah. Ronnie Childers said it was something got in there, and he said he's never seen it before. It's like a complete fluke. Nothing that he's said. It's nothing I've ever seen.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember what he said. It was on Twitter, but yeah, weird situation for them. But they're safe. They're secure. Yep. He's got nothing to worry about at this point.
Mentioned Jimmy Johnson. He finishes 19th.
Bad run for him again.
Terrible day.
Yeah. He's done, dude.
Yeah, he's out. He's got to win, and he ain't gonna win.
I mean, where's it gonna come if not at Indy? He's not gonna win Darlington.
No, he's not gonna win Darlington. There's no way he wins.
I mean, does he have any Indy magic left?
No.
Are we really counting him out?
Yep. So he's gonna win this next 2 weeks just because he'll win both of them.
I mean, I just can't believe it. We've talked about it a million times, man, but I can't count that dude out. He's like completely he's like the Undertaker in WWE. He's buried.
Right.
But is he going to pop back up again? Probably. I don't know.
Bubba Wallace got a 14th place finish. Bubba's good at
Bristol.
Bristol.
He's good there. Yeah, he is good there.
Let's see. Anybody else really worth mentioning in here? Daniel Hemrick finishes 12th.
I think Suarez was worth another mention.
Yeah.
He has come out of nowhere, and he's in the playoffs now.
Yep.
Because of how well he's been running the last couple of weeks and how bad his people around him have been running.
Right.
It's not like he's been running great, but he's been surviving.
I guess, I mentioned Boyer giving him a bunch of points. He really only got, he finished second in stage 2. So, yeah, he got quite a few points. Never mind.
Yeah, so
I'm reading the results here wrong. I thought it said 2 points, not second position.
Yeah,
so.
well, and with everything on the line for Suarez right now, he's cranked out a top 5 at Michigan and a top 10 at Bristol. Mm-hmm. And, set himself up. I mean, he's in the driver's seat now. He kind of controls his own destiny if he just runs really well.
Well, let's talk about playoff. We'll jump back to the last thing that I want to talk about with Bristol. But looking at the playoffs, Daniel Suarez 2 points in over Clint Boyer, who's 2 points out. As we said, Jimmy Johnson, he's 26 out.
It's a 4-horse race now.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Eric Jones, he's looking really good.
He's up 57. Yeah.
So Ryan Newman, 15th, 14 points in. I think Newman's. He's nervous still, but he's
pretty solid.
He's new. If it was anybody but Newman, if it was Clint Boyer in that spot, I'd say be worried. But it's Newman.
Yeah, he's just been solid all year. I mean, he's just been creeping up the standings. Yeah, it's going to take a complete catastrophe for Jones to even be mentioned in this anymore.
Yeah.
The battles between the Stewart-Haas guys, I think it's Suarez and Boyer, and Johnson.
He's got to get a win.
I don't know what to do with Johnson. Yeah,
26 points. You're almost talking an entire field.
Yeah,
I mean, you can do it with playoff points.
You can do it with stage wins too. Or stage points. He wins 2 stages. That's 20 points. So he's got to go out there and figure it out.
The cautions fall right at Darlington because the tires.
Yep.
You're going to want to pit for tires. So if you play the cards right, cautions fall at the right point. Stay out. Grab some stage points.
Yep, and then that may be the strategy. I don't know.
Yeah. It would be if Chad Knaus was his crew chief still.
Well, yeah, but
we've seen Chad do that already this year with William Byron.
But we've seen a different Jimmy Johnson too.
Yep.
So tough to say.
One thing I wanted to point out: Bristol, great crowd this weekend.
It was pretty good. There was some spots out there.
It was a lot better than what we've seen. Now you got to take into consideration if you look at the overhead of the crowd, or you look at the wide shots of the crowd. There are sections now that are tables, and they're a lot more open than they used to be. They also, if you notice at the top of the grandstands under the suites, there are banners. Mm-hmm. There's seats under there. There's like 8 to 10 rows of seats underneath there that are roped off.
Yeah.
So there's less seats, but it was still, I mean, if you compare it to spring, freaking excellent crowd at Bristol. Michigan had a really good crowd the week before, which I think Michigan had a lot to do with people using their tickets from June because of the rain out.
Yeah.
But either way,
butts in the seats.
A lot of people there. So
yeah, I had somebody I know was at Bristol and posted a picture on Facebook of his seats. He was up in between turns 1 and 2, and it was a nice overall shot of the track, and it looked really good from his perspective. It wasn't anything doctored or anything. That was good to see.
We should have a third weekend of that in 2 weeks at Darlington, because Darlington usually does pretty well, although the seating capacity is a lot less than a lot of the other tracks.
Right, but that's the new way of doing things. So.
Yep, exactly. So, and then we'll go to Indy.
Yeah,
and there'll be like 7 people in the crowd.
Yeah, it seats what 280,000, and
Yeah.
there'll be.
The problem with Indy is even if there are 90,000 people there, it looks like nobody.
That's less than half. I mean, yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
different.
A couple other things I wanted to note about Bristol. There were 2 really interesting support races over the weekend as well. 3 if you want to count K&N, but I didn't pay attention to the K&N series. The Truck Series race on Thursday night, Ross Chastain. I don't know. Did you get to watch any of the Truck Series race?
Not much. I mean, I caught the highlights.
Chastain was a freaking bulldozer, and he is. If Chastain's going to win a championship, he's going to have to not drive like that anymore the rest of the season, which I don't think is something he's willing to do, or outrun everybody because everybody's going to be after him the way he drove.
Yeah, it's weird. He's already in. But I mean, he wants to win races too.
He's got this attitude that
he's getting a little to his head, maybe a little bit.
I think so.
Yeah.
He's got this attitude that I don't care if people like me. I just want to go out and win. And I think he's already shifting from underdog status. He's in his head. He said at Michigan when I asked him that he feels like he's the underdog, but I don't think he feels like he's the underdog.
No, I think he feels like and he should. I mean, you want a driver that's confident, so yeah, go for it, man.
I don't know if it's picking up in the podcast, but we've got some background music.
Yeah, we've got my daughter is going down for bed, so this is what you get when you come to my house.
Good stuff. Good stuff. No complaints. And then Friday night, the NASCAR Xfinity Series takes to the track, and 20 laps in, we wreck like all the good drivers out of it except for Kyle.
Yep.
And then Kyle breaks, and that's it. Now we've got a really interesting race.
Yeah, and Tyler Reddick, dude, I know we kind of anointed Cole Custer the guy, and I still think he is, but man, Tyler Reddick, is he going to be in Cup next year? It sounds like it, right?
I think there's a lot of talk like
he's going to
Daniel
replace Hemrick is
out.
out. Yeah.
Which is interesting. I kind of thought they'd give Hemrick a couple of years.
Reddick's already got a championship in the bank, and he's coming for another one.
Yeah.
He drove a really good race. That car was pristine.
Yeah.
Towards the end I mean, that's the kind of race you want out of Bristol. You can get away with that. You're in good shape.
I like Tyler too. He's a good kid.
Yeah.
Anything else with Bristol we need to hit on before we move? Well, I mean, we have some other Bristol news, but anything about the race?
No, I think I'm sorry, Denny Hamlin. We didn't talk about you much.
Yeah,
but,
right. I'll say it again. Denny's.
He's a legit.
He's becoming the favorite right now.
This is his shot.
If I was to pick a champion right now, if I said, okay, we're at Homestead now, who's going to be the champion out of the guys up front?
I got Denny.
It's Denny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Harvick not doing what he needs to do. He's still not consistent enough. And Kyle, I mean, 4th place finish.
Kyle's not great on mile and a halfs, though.
He's
not
falling
great.
off the face of the earth right now.
Kyle's not great on these mile and a half track types.
It's pretty funny that you can say like a high top 10 finish is horrible.
Yeah, I know.
The season's over.
I know. Well, Joe Gibbs Racing's running a gamut on these guys.
Yeah.
Eric Jones has been running really good, and he's not even winning races.
Yep.
And my daughter is having fun somewhere.
It's great.
Hey, this is a family podcast.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to invite her down and be on the podcast some more.
She might have to come back on, yeah.
All right, so big news, obviously, at Bristol over the weekend.
Scary stuff, man.
Yeah, Friday. Was it Friday that it happened?
Thursday afternoon, I think it was Thursday.
You got Friday in the show notes.
Yeah, I think maybe it was Friday. Yeah, yeah, that's it. It was Friday.
So Dale Jr.'s plane runs off the end of the runway, crashes through a fence, bursts into flames. Yeah, it's like
twice.
Absolutely crazy. That fortunately they were belted in or whatever they need to be. Not only was Junior on the plane, but his wife was on the plane, his daughter was on the plane, and the dog was on the plane.
Yeah,
and everybody's okay.
And the 2 pilots.
Yep.
I mean,
we don't care about them. We care about the dog.
I know. Yeah, the dog. I mean, man, when I saw that, it gave me chills.
Yeah. I mean, it really is frightening to think back because I mean that's where we lost Alan Kwiecki
we have a horrid history of aviation accidents in NASCAR.
Definitely, which is if you think about it, we remember those, and yes, they're horrible, but considering how much air travel goes on in NASCAR,
it's the statistics.
Yeah, the percentage is pretty good still.
Because I was thinking about it. So we lost Alan Kwiecki. We lost Davey Allison.
Yep.
We lost the Hendrick contingent of how many people that was? 10.
A lot.
A lot. And Ricky was in there. Jack Roush has crashed 2 planes. It had to be saved.
Don't get on a plane with Jack Roush.
Don't get on a plane with Jack Roush. And then there we have this Dale Jr. thing. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff with Dale Jr. too because of his head injury history. You worry about that. And, His daughter's not even my daughter's. My daughter's going to be 3 in December. His daughter's not even 2 yet. I mean, that would terrify me as wife's on board. I mean, the whole family.
We're very lucky that we didn't lose the Earnhardt family in that incident.
That would have been devastating for the sport.
Yep. And you read the reports on it and everything. It crashed the fence. The fence wrapped around the fuselage. Fortunately, they were still able to get out because that could have kept them from opening any doors to get out.
Yeah, it's really, really scary.
Yeah, and it could have been. I mean, like you said, could have been way worse. So thank goodness it was all that it was.
Yeah. And
but
Dale took the weekend off.
He was at the track Friday after the crash.
Yeah,
but then
he checked out of the hospital. But I think he had to.
If anybody would have let him in the booth, that would have
there's
been
a lot
ridiculous.
You have a lot to process there.
Yeah.
Nearly losing, not only nearly losing your life, but your whole family's life.
Yeah, I think the family aspect from Junior's point of view probably.
Yeah.
A big part of it.
And will he race in Darlington has been a question. I don't think that matters, but it's something maybe to just mention that he is going to race Xfinity Series at Darlington. He has not said he's not running, so he's still going to run.
I don't think anybody would blame him if he didn't.
But yeah, he's got a lot of stuff, a lot of sponsorship, a year's worth of sponsorship wrapped up in that Xfinity Series race, and he's going to run that throwback scheme. So hopefully we'd love to see him on the track. We'd love to see him at Richmond last year. It's not a priority. If he feels like it's not right, then by all means, Dale, don't come.
Exactly. Take a couple of weeks off from the booth still if you need to. At least he's got 2 weeks now after Bristol.
Well, he's got time, and he's got his family. Yeah. So that's it. That's most important.
Speaking of sponsorship, big sponsorship news this week.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't even know.
You could take this one, James. You put it in the notes.
Yeah. So I have a couple articles from Deadspin this week in the notes, which is weird. But
I know what you were reading this week.
The headline is NASCAR cowards dropped Slayer as a race car sponsor because of quote unquote reactionary concerns. What does that mean? But anyway, you read the article. And basically, long story short, NASCAR said you can't have Slayer on the 54 car. J.J. Elliott was going to run the scheme, and apparently Slayer is still controversial in 2019. I didn't think that mattered anymore.
Well, here's the thing:
are we that PC in today's culture?
I mean, I think. Does it surprise me?
I can just see the looks on your face now. Which is great.
Does it surprise me that NASCAR doesn't want Slayer on a car? No. I mean, that being said, it also surprises me that still to this day, every time there's a hard liquor sponsor on a car, because for years that was a big no-no. Yeah. Despite the fact that, half of the field used to be sponsored. Well, the entire series used to be sponsored by a cancer-causing cigarette company.
Yeah, heaters.
Or chewing tobacco. On the other hand,
we always loved the Skull Bandit car.
Right, the Skull Bandit car. But it doesn't surprise me that they didn't allow it. The thing that keeps surprising me is this is the second time in just a couple of weeks that we've run into an issue where we're at the track when this happens. Like, I'm pretty sure NASCAR makes these guys turn their designs in ahead of time.
Yeah, what's
this
happening
car was
there?
on Facebook or on Twitter
a week before.
Yeah. So like we show up at Eldora with a truck with Marathon on it, and it had to be taken off.
Yep.
And then now we've got Slayer, and this keeps happening, and I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah.
In the sponsorship situation that these teams are in, to wait until race weekend to tell them, oh nope, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do if Slayer says, okay, we're not giving them money? They don't have somebody else to put sponsorship on the car. They paid the money to get to the track. Now they can't race.
Right.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and luckily they were able to sponsor. This car was sponsored by, what is it, Pods?
Much more PC company.
Yeah, it's just weird. The way sponsorship is in NASCAR is just weird.
Yeah.
You want these teams to be independent contractors, and then you overrule them on stuff like this.
I have a real problem with, and again, I'm going to challenge my buddy Moody over the Marathon thing, who he was, big NASCAR supporter, because Moody wouldn't say anything bad about NASCAR ever, even if somebody held a gun to his head.
Right.
But I hate this exclusivity stuff. I get it that NASCAR used to do it. I don't think they should do it.
No.
It's stupid. Everybody's working for sponsorship dollars. If when it was Sprint, if Verizon wanted to come in and put a bunch of money in, heck, Verizon put a bunch of money into Penske to run a car without their logos on it, because they still, they ran. Penske's been brilliant with that, because they did it with Marlboro too for years.
Yeah, they ran the Verizon scheme in Xfinity, and then they just had the same paint scheme on Brad's car in the Cup, and it just said Penske, which was crazy at the time. But
but I mean, the sponsorship dollars are so hard to come by. Just let them freaking run the cars.
Right. Right.
It's so stupid.
Right.
But Slayer, I can kind of understand. I mean, it wasn't a controversial paint scheme though. It was just the name of a band.
Let me just throw this at you.
There was a Viagra car in NASCAR
for a long time. Who's a more controversial figure in 2019? The band Slayer or President Donald Trump?
I knew you were going there.
I mean, we've had Trump fans on race cars.
It's
right?
true. And then the interesting thing, which I don't know anything about Slayer, although I do know their music is atrocious, but
that's an opinion.
The article points out that that a lot of their political views actually align with NASCAR and the conservative nature of the NASCAR viewers. So.
I don't understand. Yeah,
whatever.
It is what it is.
It's stupid. Well, speaking of one stupid story to another, you gonna take this one?
Yeah, we'll take it. We're not going to repeat what was said.
Yeah.
But NASCAR is looking into some homophobic comments made over the 88 truck team's radio. Matt Weaver actually reported it, and the tweet has been taken down. But we have a link in the show notes if you want to do a little bit of reading on this. But basically, some really nasty stuff came on over the team radio in regards to Stuart Friesen and his team, and basically, once Matt Weaver sent this tweet out, he decided to delete it. He got called out on it. He explained his reasons why. He said that it wasn't the language used that bothered him. It was the sentiment of the language that was being used. But he also, he said, I've screenshot this stuff and sent it out there. But, some really weird stuff there.
So there's comments in here too that NASCAR is looking into it.
Yes,
could be potential for punishment, although it just says that NASCAR could punish. It doesn't say they're going to or anything like that.
Yeah, and please, if you do see the show notes and you do click on the link, there is some pretty strong language in here.
We don't condone any of the language that's used in here.
No, it's not us. It's just we felt it was worth discussing because this has come up before, and it came up again with this issue that possibly that fans are hopping onto team radios, and it's actually a pretty common issue.
Right.
We don't know what that is.
They publish the frequencies.
They do.
Like you can go to Racing Electronics and buy a sheet of all the frequencies.
Yes.
And if you have a radio that you can program a frequency in, you can program the frequency in and talk on that radio channel.
Yeah.
I mean, so here's my concern on this, and
we're not saying that's what happened.
Right.
We're just saying that that's a possibility. We don't really know. NASCAR has to look at this, but
that being
it's concerning.
Said, I don't condone what was said. Shouldn't have been said.
No,
but one of the best things about going to a NASCAR race is being able to rent a scanner or buy a scanner, punch in a couple numbers, and listen to the coaches. Mm-hmm. You get to listen to the coaches and the players on the field. You don't get to do that in the NFL. You don't get to do that in baseball. You don't get to do it in hockey. There's no other sport that you get to do this in. Don't ruin it.
Right.
Don't ruin this. And I'm not saying this just for the teams. Yes, I'm talking to the fans. The fans that get on radios and do stuff that they shouldn't do. And the fans that are outraged over this stuff. Nothing against Matt Weaver. He's doing his job as a reporter. But
he's got to listen, man, 2019, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
We're in PC culture. Mm-hmm. And
I think this is going to be overreacted upon. And I see stuff like this happening that will eventually, NASCAR could very easily switch, change a line in the rule book and switch everybody to digital radios.
And it's over.
That we could never hear.
Yep.
And we don't want that.
Kevin Harvick told you 2 weeks ago at Michigan, he doesn't push the button.
Yep, the radio's poison, he said.
Yep,
and this is why. This is exactly why.
Here you go. Here's your poison, and this is awful stuff.
The radio's poison. So you got Kevin Harvick that refuses to say stuff over the radio. You got these guys who say something in the heat of the moment. It's in the heat of the moment. This is crazy. And again, might not have been the team that did it, but if it was heat of the moment, craziness. Your lives are on the line. You're making 15-second laps on a half-mile racetrack.
Yep.
Again, not condoning what was said, but sometimes things get said that shouldn't be said.
Yep.
And then you got Kyle Busch's team and a lot of the other teams now that when it comes time for a pit stop, they're naming fast food restaurants and to decide what type of pit stop they're going to have.
Right.
That's the type of stuff that we're getting by all this critiquing over the radios.
Right.
Let's just pump the brakes.
Yeah.
In the words of Taylor Swift.
Oh my God!
You need to calm down.
Is my wife listening? She better not be listening.
I was gonna I planned to use that tonight. I was gonna use it.
You
on
were
the
waiting for your
thing,
you were.
I was gonna make a sound clip, but I just haven't had time to do it. I was gonna have it just ready to go.
Be careful, man. She'll come for your money.
Yeah, right. I'm sure she would. Yeah, you're right.
But just maybe a last point on this though. Everybody, don't say these things. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get busted.
Yeah.
Social media is gonna come get you.
The thing is we all say stuff.
Be better people than that.
Yeah.
That's the overall. I think at the end of the day, just be better people.
Exactly.
We don't need to say this stuff anymore. We're past that.
Should
we know
NASCAR find them?
now. If it's them, if they find out it was them, oh, absolutely. That whoever said it needs to be gone.
Yeah.
For a little while.
I don't have an issue with that.
They need to take a break.
I don't have an issue with the suspension. With you as a team, you also need to realize that this is a public radio. This is anybody can hear this, including children.
Yep.
And Kurt Busch needs to remember that. Kyle needs to remember that when they're F this, F that over the radio too.
Yes.
That kids are listening. At the same time, I mean,
I understand heat of the moment though. Too.
I got quite an education when I was 8 years old listening to the scanner. So
yeah, and it's I'm okay with heat of the moment stuff.
Yeah.
Dropping an
and a cuss word is different.
Yeah, dropping an F-bomb is one thing, but going after slurs, that's where maybe you draw the line a little bit.
Yep, I agree with that. I agree with that.
I mean, there's just no place for it anymore. We just
no, it's a different world than it used to be, and that stuff you could get away with that stuff before, and
we know more about these things than we used to, and how people really are affected by some of this stuff, and you don't want to alienate fans. Whoever maybe you're discriminating against. We want as many fans as we can possibly have.
Let's put it this way. We had a great story this weekend. We had Denny Hamlin in arguably his best season of his career.
Apex. Yeah, he's at his apex.
Beat somebody who's quickly becoming most popular driver, and we're talking about a racial an inappropriate slur over the radio.
Yeah, and we don't want to do that.
In the truck series.
Yeah. You and I discussed before the podcast, do we bring this up?
Yeah.
And it's relevant.
It's worth talking about.
It's worth talking about.
And it's something that you're not going to hear on Sirius, because I guarantee you Sirius isn't going to talk about it.
And if it's a Deadspin article, there's a good chance Sirius isn't going to talk about it.
Right.
But you say what you want
about it.
If
it was on Barstool Sports, though, then NASCAR would be all over it, right?
Man.
You want to go there?
That gets me mad. Don't even get me started. Speaking of which, though, I will say there was a great article by Alanis King on Jalopnik, and that's another Deadspin site. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to push Deadspin.
Is that the one that said that NASCAR needs to get rid of Barstool?
It's a problem. Yeah. But that's what we're talking about right here. This is the stuff Barstool's doing that you got to think about. You're taking money from Barstool.
Right.
If NASCAR's taking money from Barstool Sports, and they're allowed to say these things and say what they do, say what they say about women and all these other things that Barstool Sports does, then you can't. I don't know. That's a whole nother podcast.
You're right though. It's 100% right.
You can't do that. You can't. That's who you're. Think about who you're partnering with. In that sense.
Well, it's just like you can't refuse to take a political stance on things when everybody's fighting over the national anthem, and then have your CEO at the time openly support the president, or the guy running for president. So, it's the same difference.
Exactly.
And I guess to go that route, let's just keep politics out of NASCAR and just watch NASCAR.
I don't want to talk about politics on this podcast. I hear too much of it in my life.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we don't need that here.
No kidding. A couple more quick news items. We got a little bit more silly season news. Sounds like Corey LaJoie could potentially be out of the 32 car next year.
Which is crazy. We're going to have DiBenedetto and LaJoie.
Yeah, exactly. And that could be a possible landing spot for Cole Custer in the Cup Series. Supposedly, Go Fast is going to work with Stuart Haas next year potentially, and that would definitely open a seat for Custer.
I don't know. What do you think about this? Because I got some thoughts.
I don't know. Here's the deal: if we're going to keep having these affiliations, let's just get rid of the team limit.
We should
just get rid of the team limit,
or give everybody another team. Give them 5.
Right. I mean, this is.
Are we going to stretch Stuart Haas's resources even more? They have no sponsorship as it is.
That's true.
They've got one car funded.
That's true. I mean, and look we see here in the picture in the article what uniform is Cole Custer wearing.
It's going to be Haas.
It's a Haas uniform.
Yeah.
So
is Haas going to sponsor 3 cars now?
No,
I don't understand.
Guess if you want to race and you don't have the sponsorship, you got to pay, right?
Well, I mean, if Stuart Haas is hellbent on keeping...
Haas has got the money. He's funding the Formula 1 team. He's just got the money to throw into a Cup team.
I don't know why you wouldn't just let Clint Bowyer walk.
Yeah, I don't know.
That would just make it so much
Clint's
easier.
Clint's not going anywhere, though.
No, he's not. He's going to take a pay cut. Nope. He'll take a pay cut.
Next year.
Yep. And Suarez, I mean, he's raced his way into the playoffs, and he's got sponsorship backing. Not fully funded, but he's got sponsorship backing, so you can't get rid of him.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it's good. Joe Gibbs is going to ramp up their support of the 95 next year. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I mean, maybe this is the wave of the future. Maybe there's going to be a new Hendrick team.
You're going to take these 2 teams, though, that are already big and they're going to get bigger.
Yeah.
But Hendrick's going to be behind more because they don't have that.
But you know what, though?
Penske's going to be behind. Penske's going to fall behind.
This goes back to a lot of things. One, we want more competition.
I guess Penske's got the affiliation, though, too, because they've got it with
Wood
Brothers.
Yeah.
Do they still have that with Wood Brothers?
Yeah. That's basically the Wood Brothers cars are built in their shop.
Yeah.
Austin Cindric, look out. He might be coming. Not this year, though, but soon.
Yeah, but Menard's got the big check behind him.
He does. There you go.
When your name's on the front of a line of stores.
And on the hood of your car, too. That's
right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we want more competition in the series, and we have to find it some way. So if we have 2 more highly competitive cars, then great. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just think
this is why we need more manufacturers, too.
We need more manufacturers, and we need to get rid of the limit on teams. Yeah. Or at least increase it. You know, it's just stupid.
If this is the way it's going,
they always find ways around it.
Yeah, if this is the way it's going, just bump it up to 5 and be done with it.
Exactly.
And I don't know. This is the way these teams are doing it. We're already seeing it.
Yep.
So
it's not stopping them from spending money.
Joe Gibbs was basically up to 6 teams not that long ago when they had the 77 and the 78 at Furniture Row. I mean, it was a little bit different, but they were pumping in a lot of funds into that team.
Yes, they were. Let's see. We've got some news, a little bit more news on the Gen 7 car. Potentially, I don't know why I'm using the word potentially all of a sudden.
It's coming.
NASCAR is, in addition to their larger diameter tire, they may reduce the number of lug nuts on the car to 1. What do we think of that?
Go for it.
I think it's stupid.
It is kind of stupid.
I mean, how lame are pits? I'm sorry. And
Formula 1 and IndyCar pit stops are terrible.
Formula 1 pit stops are cool.
They're really fast. But
Formula 1 pit stops are cool because they're so fast.
Do we need to have it that fast?
We don't.
I like the skill.
No, and that's the thing. Like, you're talking, so right now a mistake costs you a lot.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how much a mistake will cost you?
Oh, yeah.
A half a second in a 2-second pit stop.
Is a lot.
Well, here's the thing.
And you don't get that lug tight or something?
But here's the problem, though, is unless they're going to change the fuel tanks or the fuel cans,
you can't do it that way.
It's still gonna take just as long. So
but there's maybe where your strategy could come into play.
Maybe, but now you just
do you sit there for a full tank, or do you sit there for 3/4 of a tank?
Maybe they just reduce the number of tire changers to 1.
Maybe.
So yeah, one guy has to do all 4 tires.
So we're firing more people.
Yeah,
we're getting into the economics now. We're getting too much.
I don't like. I get.
Leave the lug nuts alone.
I get NASCAR trying to make things more like the production cars, but my production car still has 5 lug nuts on it. Mm-hmm. So if that's what we're doing, then keep 5 lug nuts on the car.
Just leave the cars alone. Yeah, leave the lugs alone. Yeah. I do like the idea of the tires and everything. That all sounds great.
Yeah.
But the only thing I really care about with the tires is make those things wear out, please.
Yes.
And keep the 5 lug nuts on there. That's point 2.
And maybe I don't know. We don't want to hurt people, but maybe it's okay if some tires blow. Yeah. First of all, we have interliners. Why do we not just run the interliner everywhere?
Yeah.
Every single track we run at. I don't understand why Bristol's the only short track that they run an interliner at. Just run it everywhere. That'll help that problem because you blow a tire at Daytona, you can save it now.
Yep.
Still, not at every point, but I don't know. Anyway, now I'm on a tangent.
We do that a lot.
That's it for the news, I think, unless something popped up on Twitter.
We burned through the news pretty quick. Let's do a quick check of the Twitter. Make sure that we're not missing anything. There was a paint scheme reveal. Actually, we can talk about that really quick.
Yeah.
Brad Keselowski takes this first spot again.
But it's not fair because there's so many good Rusty Wallace paint schemes.
I know, but they nail it every time.
It's like Rusty Wallace paint schemes. Ryan Newman could do a good one every year because there's some good
do the Mark Martin ones.
Schemes.
Yep. But that's also our nostalgia coming in.
That's true.
I mean, we're 90s. We're 90s kids.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Childress to do the black number 3.
I still think that Baby Ruth Xfinity scheme is right there.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's pretty BA.
Pretty good.
But Brad Keselowski nailed this one.
It's just not fair because he's got the same number at the same team that used to run that sponsor.
Yeah.
And the same sponsor.
I mean, which is pretty cool.
It's cool, but it's like cheating.
It's a cheat code.
It's kind of like when who was it that ran the 7 Hooters car and didn't have the number right?
Oh, when
and then
Yeah.
Biffle came in and ran the same scheme.
Biffle ran the same
with
scheme.
the 16, and it's like kind of cheating. He's not the right numbers.
Yeah.
You got to, anyway.
Yeah, it was Michael Annette. He ran the 7.
Yeah.
And he ran that goofy looking number 7.
Yeah.
I was like, just get the 7 right. You had it.
Exactly.
You were right there, dude.
Exactly.
You had it.
It's when corporate gets in the way again, James.
I know. Corporate always does. Sound like Michael Scott now.
Yeah. Speaking of special paint schemes and throwback weekend, we, because of my current situation and being homeless, not really homeless, just in the middle of moving from
Eric
one house to
doesn't
another.
want to come over to my house anymore. He's had enough.
Starting a new job and moving to a different house has made things crazy, and because we have an off week, we're going to take next week off for the podcast unless something crazy happens and we want to jump on. So with that, we're going to preview Darlington, which is our next race. It's the Southern 500. I'm assuming it's the Bojangles Southern 500.
I believe it is the Bojangles Southern 500.
And so probably best race of the year. We get to go to Darlington. We get to see some throwback cars.
We got fun paint. We got a fun track.
This paint scheme is going to be my favorite. I mean, this theme is going to be my favorite that we've had yet.
The 90s, baby.
It's great. Good stuff.
Yep.
So on that note, who gets first pick? Do I get first pick?
No, I've got it set the way it's supposed to. So you get first.
Yeah,
since you picked for me last week.
That's right. How'd you like your picks last week? They were good, weren't
McMurray didn't perform as well as I thought. Danica did what I thought she would do. I mean, we got out of Bristol we got out of there with no damage. So
Right.
it was I mean, a solid day.
Anyway, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go a different direction than I probably should, and I'm just going to stick with the guy who's been performing well, and I'm going to go Eric Jones as my pick for the win.
There you go.
He's second as far as average finishes. He's only raced 2 races there.
I feel like we're picking him a lot.
Yeah.
We want it bad.
I want him to win, man.
Me too.
I'd like to see him do it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Eric Jones.
You know who's going to go in there and blow the doors off everybody?
Denny Hamlin?
Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, I knew you were going to pick Denny.
He's on a roll, man.
Yeah.
What's the rules package for Darlington? Are we running lower horsepower? I don't think so. I think we're running full horsepower at this point.
It's over a mile, so I'm pretty sure it's the lower horsepower.
Hold on.
I think it's lower horsepower. And
Filibuster for me
I
then,
think
would
it's
you?
air ducts and all that. Yeah, I'll filibuster. How am I going to do that? What should I talk about? I can go get your daughter back on the podcast.
I think she finally went to bed. Oh my gosh. There we go. Darlington's rules package is 550 horsepower with air ducts.
There you go. Thought so.
Thank you, Jayski.
Yeah, gotta love Jayski.
Jayski has it right on the home.
Jayski's back.
Jayski has it right on the homepage. You just scroll down and you say Darlington, click on the link, rules package, but then it just says is 550 horsepower with air ducts.
Do they have a Bob Pockris link on there too? Does this track have lights? Darlington does have lights.
Darlington does have
I helped you out there, Bob.
Bob Pockris is on vacation.
Oh,
and
man.
he was asking his Twitter followers if he should completely sign off. And I'm like, please, would you just go away for a week? Enjoy yourself, man.
I love Pockris.
All right, so
Okay, so here's a question, and you've only been in the garage a little bit, but who is the harder working NASCAR journalist, Bob Pockris or Claire B. Lang?
I feel like Bob puts more miles on his feet.
I don't think so. I think Claire does.
Well, maybe you're right.
Not to mention, Claire doesn't. Everybody else goes home, and Claire's still there.
That's true. Claire does the radio show. Bob's always there before everybody, though.
He's really not, though. I've beat Bob a few times.
Well, maybe
he's not as early.
He's slowing down.
He's just not as late as everybody else.
Yeah, maybe he's. That's a journalism problem.
Right.
Claire B probably is. Now that I'm thinking about it, because she's up late, she's there all weekend chasing down audio,
and she is nuts. Like Bob will come like mosey in over there, and not to take anything away from Bob. He's in the media center. Something happens if you're in the media center when the race is going on. Something will happen. Somebody will go to the garage. All of a sudden, Bob's out the side door.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's got better access than anybody.
But Claire is like running around like a crazy person.
Yeah.
And not to mention, she's also got to edit that audio.
She's on pit road a lot too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's everywhere. So I'd go Claire. I think
Claire probably does work harder than most.
Yeah. All right. You get dark horse pick, James. There, I filibustered for you when I didn't need to.
That was perfect. Yeah, we kind of nailed it. I don't think Ryan Newman doesn't qualify, or does he qualify?
I don't know. I guess Ryan Newman qualifies just as well as Matt DiBenedetto does.
Okay, I'll take Ryan Newman.
And I'm going to take Matt DiBenedetto.
All right. You're going to spell that again this week, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I might as well just leave it on here.
Yeah, he's a dark horse pick every week.
After I just said Matt DiBenedetto got lucky because he's one good track.
I know.
I'm going to pick him as my dark horse.
What would we have done had he won Bristol? Because he wouldn't have been considered a dark horse anymore.
Yeah,
we would have had to remove him. He would have had to been just a favorite.
He might have still been able to be a dark horse, even not like this week. But he could still fall into that dark horse category because
Perhaps.
it's Bristol.
Perhaps, yeah.
I mean, Stenhouse was still in the dark horse category after he got his first win.
That's true.
So, but that was a restrictor plate race too. That's a little bit more fluky than Bristol.
Yeah.
All right, James. Any shout outs this week?
I did listen to while I was on vacation. I did listen to a few podcasts. You did a great job.
Thanks.
By the way. I mean, it's better without me, but I don't want to say it too much.
No, it's not.
But Nate Ryan, I shouted out his podcast many times, but that dude did a oral history on the 20th anniversary of Dale Earnhardt versus Terry Labonte at Bristol.
Oh man,
you got to listen to it.
I'm listening to podcasts.
Pop
right now,
that baby
so
on your ride home tonight because it is legit awesome. It's got the audio clips in there. It's got the sound. They've got there's a part in there where there's a quick discussion on the television booth, and it wasn't aired live. It was just caught. The audio's just you know how it is at the track where you catch the audio when they're off air. And they're discussing if Dale's going to get the race taken away from him. It's such good stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm listening to that as soon as I leave here.
So please.
As a matter of fact, I'm quitting the podcast right now. We're done. No, I'm just kidding.
We're done. So yeah, Nate Ryan's podcast is really good, and then I am halfway through Marty Smith's book. Okay. And it's very good. I know I mentioned that before, but I wanted
an audiobook version of that?
There is an audiobook version.
Is he reading it?
He reads it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna probably. I need to delve into some audiobooks. Yeah,
because you got some driving to do now.
I got a long drive now. So.
But it's really good. There's a chapter. There's been a few NASCAR nuggets in there, but there's one chapter that he did completely on Dale Earnhardt.
Nice.
And basically how his wife Amy saved his life, which really tied into what happened this week. I was reading. I finished that chapter, and it wasn't a day later that the whole plane crash thing really came into just put everything into perspective. But he's such a talented writer. So anyway, just wanted to give everybody an update.
Marty's just awesome.
He is awesome. So when I finished the book, I wanted to give one update, and then when I finish the book, I'll let everybody know if there's any other good NASCAR nuggets in there for you.
Sounds good.
Very good.
I like it. Fantasy League, you had that up, right?
I do.
So I will admit that you said I finished last.
You did. You scored 90 points this week.
Yeah, I forgot to pick my drivers. So I had Michigan drivers. Pretty sure I had somebody, at least one on there that was out of start. So.
Yeah, we have, well, I think you're in a transitional period of your life right now. One of the biggest things you can do is sell your home and change jobs. Right. So you're going through the gauntlet right now.
If only I was getting married on top of it.
So if there was a way for me to manually override this and give you I feel like you deserve like a 50-point bump
bonus
each week just for what you're going through in your real life. So anyway, Ranger Runyon, he wins. He beats Freight Train by 1 point, and then my roll continues. I've gone second, first, and now third.
Nice.
So I'm feeling myself a little bit. And then overall, we'll do a quick overall check.
Did I fall the last yet?
You are not last. You have a 199 point buffer over last place, so you're in good place. You're in good spot. Ranger continues to lead, but it's a good battle at the top. He's only 30 points or so ahead of Justin 713. Then Freight Train, Hurricane Ditka, and I am coming for you, Hurricane Ditka. I'm only a couple points back. And then KB Show, and then Scoters rounds us out.
Nice.
So there's our Fantasy League update. Eric looks like he wants to punch the wall.
Right. Yeah.
It's weird doing this in person. I can see all your facial expressions, and I can only imagine how disgusted you are with me most of the time.
Right. All right. Let's. I guess that's it, James. Anything else we need to hit before we head on out of here?
No. Enjoy your time off from the podcast.
Yeah. Right. Thanks. Where can they find you on social media if they want to tweet at you?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. I apologize if I'm not on there much, but it's been a little crazy lately. And where I'm staying right now has no internet. So as a matter of fact, I'm going to upload the podcast here at James's house before I leave.
Yeah, he has to pay overtime for that.
Right. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. If you'd like more of the podcast, you can visit us at thesuperspeedway.com. We've got stories up there, photos from Ryan at Michigan International Speedway earlier this year. Those are awesome. Check those out. All kinds of stuff, show notes. You can click on all the articles, read the articles that we talked about in the podcast today and all the other episodes. Let's see. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud, wherever you found us today. We hope you subscribe and continue to listen. If you like the show and you want to support us some more, visit Patreon at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. With that, we'll take a week off. We'll go to Darlington in 2 weeks for the throwback weekend, and we'll be back after Darlington to talk about it all and break it all down. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.